Hey everybody, Pastor James here. It is Current Events Monday for March the 6th, 2023. Hope you're having a great day and a good start to your week. So I was watching the news this morning, just trying to get caught up on things. And a story actually caught my attention that wouldn't normally do so. It was a story of a protest down at the Capitol, which isn't too unusual, is it? But this was kind of a strange one. Even for Austin. So this protest was by a group called ATX Students for Revolution, obviously a communist organization, and they were protesting law enforcement, and their program, as stated, is to abolish all police, abolish all law enforcement. So that sort of caught my attention. What does that really mean? And obviously on this news story, they couldn't pack all of that into 2 minutes or whatever the package was there. But they had another person on there who wasn't a part of this protest or this organization, but was down there sort of just fuming at it. And they got his perspective too on the news. And he just said, man, these people are childish and out of touch with reality and that sort of thing. And kind of some name calling and that sort of thing. Now, why would that get my attention? That's pretty normal these days. Lots of name calling, lots of protesting. That's just sort of the order of the day, isn't it? Well, it caught my attention because I think this protest that I saw yesterday is sort of a microcosm of what's going on in the wider society. You have two very polar opposite ends of perspectives now, and really not much middle ground. I mean, you have this perspective of let's make everything communist and abolish the police and stick it to the man and all that stuff. Doesn't really work out, does it? But also you have this other polar opposite end of the perspective, of the spectrum, of the perspective of politics today, that just sort of hurls epithets at people who disagree as well. And that doesn't work either. So what's a Christian to do? What's a church to do in this very polarized society that we live in? Well, fortunately in the scripture, we have some guidance, not only from Jesus himself, but also from Paul in his writings to his churches who were dealing with some of the same things that we deal with today. In fact, in Romans chapter 11, as Paul begins to spell out what it means to be a Christian in society, he says this, Romans 11:36. He says, for from Jesus, from him, from Jesus, and through Jesus, and for Jesus are all things. To him be the glory forever. What does that mean exactly? Well, if everything is from Jesus, all good and perfect gifts are from him. So if everything's from Jesus, and if everything's in life to be directed for Jesus, and everything is to be for his glory, then Christians in a polarized society must take a larger view. The 35,000-foot perspective. Now, what does that mean? It means Christ is to be our ultimate concern. Things like healthcare and justice, racial justice and law enforcement justice and employment and unemployment. Man, we argue about these things as well as we should in a free speech society. But the church has to be really, really careful that we don't become exploited ourselves by people on the polar opposite ends of the spectrum. And that we maintain Christ and his kingdom comes first, and that puts everything else in perspective. Let me put it like this. I want to share a quote from a book that I showed you last week by a man named Robin Lovin, a theologian, ethicist, and I think he's really got a good finger on the pulse of American society today. He says it like this. He says, we as Christians do not feed the hungry in order to make America great again, or as a first step in a program of equity. But he says we do feed the hungry because Jesus comes first in our lives. And we feed a hungry person because he needs bread. Let's keep ourselves as believers from being exploited by the polars, the poles, the polar opposite ends of the political spectrum. Let's seek Christ and his kingdom first, and all these other things will be added to us. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time.